Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Transfer Express webinar, Brand It with a Shirt Tag. My name is Andy Curtis. I'm the Senior Manager of Graphic Design and Dealer Services here at Transfer Express. I've been with the company for 18 years, and I have done just about everything you can do under this roof except for accounting, because you don't want me in charge of the money. And I am thrilled to join you for a webinar that I think you guys are going to find very interesting. This is one of those topics that we get asked about a whole lot in customer service at Transfer Express. This is probably one of the most basic marketing ploys that you guys can employ these days. One of the most basic marketing strategies is using your own shirt tag inside of a shirt. And this is one of those things that even people who aren't decorating normally with a heat press find themselves wanting to purchase a heat press just so they can put their shirt tags into shirts. So this is definitely one of those topics that people find interesting, people want to know more about. And here's the good news. Before we even get started, before we even start getting into the details, this is one of those things that's actually going to be easier than you think it is. Sure, there's a couple tips and tricks, and there's a couple little bits of equipment that you need to know about, and simple stuff, though. So this is one of those things where you're all going to be pleasantly surprised, I think. So with that being said, if you have joined me before, welcome back. I'm glad to have you. If you have not joined me, we are recording this webinar, and it will be available on our website after the fact. It'll go up at transferexpress.com/webinars. So definitely, if you miss anything, if you have to tune out for a hot second, it will all be there on the website for you to rewatch again. If you are signed up, and obviously you are signed up if you're here present in the room with me, you guys will get emails after the fact also with the webinar slides. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. Oh, and of course, I apologize. If you do have a question for me, I encourage you to pop it into the chat box off to the side there that you've all found. Pop your question into the chat box. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them. If I miss your question, it's not because I am ignoring you. If I miss your question, it's because I talk a whole lot. And my helper behind the curtain, who's already giving you guys instructions on what to do if your audio gets weird, he will answer your questions if I happen to miss them. Okay, so now without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? So first of all, what is a shirt tag, right? So this is one of those simple things. Let's talk about it. Let's make sure we're all on the same page. So first of all, what is a shirt tag? A shirt tag is a tag that's applied typically to the inside neck area of a shirt. And as you can see from my pictures here, it is a good, cost-effective way to advertise yourself and to brand yourself. Now, throughout this webinar, we're going to talk about how to properly tag your shirt, what you should be looking for, what you should avoid doing, what you should be trying to do. We're going to talk about some best practices and stuff. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things as we go throughout the webinar today, but it's all going to revolve around this concept of what is a shirt tag and how do I do it, and how does it benefit my company. At the end of the day, just because somebody has purchased a shirt from you doesn't necessarily mean they're going to remember it's from you. This is where shirt tags are a beautiful way to get yourself out there and to remind people of who you are and what your shirts are like by sticking your name on there. So as we go today, you're going to see a couple different examples of different shirt tags and different looks and that sort of thing. And obviously what you're going to discover as we go today is there are a bunch of different ways to do shirt tags. There is not one right way necessarily. There are some best practices though. So I will share those best practices with you and what you should avoid doing, what you should include, that sort of stuff. But just know that at the end of the day, one of the things that any of us here at Transfer Express can tell you is we have seen tons of different types of shirt tags come and go through here. Sometimes people include bits and pieces like their company's website, their company's email address, even phone numbers, obviously your company name, that kind of stuff. The one catch that you want to make sure that you consider when you're doing a shirt tag, though, is make sure to take a step back and look at how much text you've put on your shirt tag, because you don't want to go overboard. But at the end of the day, the point that I'm making is that there is no concrete, set in stone, right way to do a shirt tag and wrong way to do a shirt tag. You'll see all sorts of different things out there. So let's talk about what should be on a shirt tag. So what should I include? What should I put on there? Now, these aren't things that are written in stone necessarily, but these are best practices as far as we can tell you here from a Transfer Express perspective. Based on the orders that we get and that we see day in and day out in customer service, these are the things that you want to include that are most common to include. So number one, your company name. Obviously the most important thing here. This is the whole point of you doing your own tags, is to make sure you get your company name out there, or if this is some kind of brand under your company name. The point is that you're labeling it somehow with your brand or your company name or both. And make sure to include, you can include your logo, you can include your business website. And again, this is one of those things you want to be careful about, because you don't want to go too small. Remember, if you have a logo that does go with your company and that logo you put on everything, let's say, you got to consider that these shirt tags are really tiny. These are only a couple inches. And if you're trying to put a detailed logo of some kind on a shirt tag that's already tiny, it's not going to work out very well. So when you're considering your brand and your company name on your shirt tag, make sure to consider, is my logo shirt tag friendly? If your logo is really small, has a lot of details in it, has a lot of show through areas or anything like that, then you're going to want to consider not putting your logo on there. Stick with just your company name, just the name of the brand, that sort of stuff. This is all things we can walk you through, obviously, at Transfer Express too. Actually, Todd, you're about 2 slides ahead of me. We're going to talk about tagless shirts. And that's the truth here, is you can buy shirts that already come tagless, or you can buy the tearaway tag shirts. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter which one you do, although I think the industry is more going towards those rip out tags. I can't say specifically for the entire industry, I can't speak for everybody, but I tend to see that more and more lately, is these companies going to the rip away tags. So continuing on here. Okay, so company name and your logo. Apparel size, obviously this is important. This is one of the points to a tag, is what size the apparel is. Material content, you do have to include this. Percentage of cotton, polyester, etc. Remember, there are people with allergies, there are people that have preferences. You do need to specifically state what is in your garment, otherwise you're sort of missing the point of a tag here. Country of origin, where the apparel was made. Okay, so country of origin, where the apparel was made. And it looks like we have a question here. So Cindy's asking, what if you don't know? What if you don't know where the shirt comes from? That's one of those things, Cindy, that you can find out from the warehouse you're purchasing from. That's one of those details that they'll be able to tell you there. And Kevin is asking a good question too. What is the tag measurement requirement? So Kevin, this is one of those things where I can't tell you that every tag needs to be exactly 2 inches wide. It depends on what you're putting on the tag. We've had customers send us whole paragraphs that they're trying to cram onto one little shirt tag, and I'm not even kidding you. Obviously, that kind of thing's not going to work. You can't put a whole paragraph. And in the example here in my picture is a perfect example of what a tag should be. It's very simple, maybe a little too simple. Maybe you want to go a little bit more detailed than just the company name at the top there. But the point is, we've kept it super simple. There's not a ton of text. You do not have a lot of space here. Okay, so when it comes to sizing, Kevin, the thing you got to keep in mind is that the measurements that we do go off of here at Transfer Express, if you're doing a screen printed tag, every line needs to be 0.012 inches thick. And every show through area, meaning like the XL in my picture here is show through, or the insides of letter O's and A's, every show through area needs to be 0.04 inches thick. So those are the measurements we go off of. I can't tell you what size to make the whole tag, because I don't know exactly what you're trying to do. And Elliot's got a good point here. Can we just say printed in the USA? That's probably acceptable to some degree too. This is going to depend on who your audience is too, keep in mind. there are people who obviously are shooting for garments that are sourced completely 100% in the United States, that sort of thing. At the end of the day, it's smart to know where the shirts came from and put that on the tag. If the best you can do is print it in the USA, that's fine too. But these days, most of the time, you can find out from the warehouses where the actual shirts came from. And then lastly, care instructions. This is something that people ask us about a lot. People tend to call us up and want to know what to do exactly about the care instructions. So in this case, in my example here, we've opted to not print any text for the care instructions because remember, like I said a second ago, you do not have a lot of space here and you cannot afford to put a whole paragraph of stuff. So in the case in our example, we've chosen to put the icons, the little symbols, meaning how to wash the apparel, meaning, do not direct iron, gentle wash, that sort of thing. So at the end of the day, it's up to you on exactly how much you want to explain the care instructions on your tag. But at the end of the day, if you're going to choose to spell out gentle wash, do not iron, that sort of thing, make sure you're being cognizant of how much space you're actually taking up. Okay, so these are the things that you should put on your tag. But again, just for the sake of putting it out there, the things that you should not put on your tag, the things that you should avoid putting on your tag, if you have tiny detailed logos for your company, if you have super thin text, maybe your company name, your company's logo is a scripty, written out version of your company name. That's totally fine, but make sure that text isn't super thin and tiny, because that's something that we're gonna have a problem. You're gonna have a problem printing, right? So when you're going to make your tags, make sure you don't have super fine detailed art, and make sure you don't have a whole bunch of really tiny text. All right, cut the amount of text out as much as you can. Remember that you're not writing a book. This is just a shirt tag. And if you're going to include a logo, make sure it is not detailed. You want to avoid show through spaces as much as possible because remember, these tags are tiny. And when you press an ink transfer, the ink will want to expand and close up. So if you do a whole bunch of tiny text and then try to put a detailed logo for your company name on there as well, it's going to close up and turn muddy. So at the end of the day, one of the things we do the most here at Transfer Express when people put in orders for tags is we find ourselves having to help you edit it back. So keep that in mind ahead of time. You do need to generally edit these back just a little bit. You're not doing a whole bunch of text. You're not doing a whole bunch of artwork. Remember, the idea here is to get your name out there and to make sure people have a way to look you up, like company name, website address, that sort of thing. And a great question as a novice, can I contact Transfer Express and someone help me? Absolutely. We will walk you through this without a problem. It's one of those things where if you're going to call us to go over a shirt tag situation that you want to put in, absolutely call us. Just make sure to have as many details as possible. Let us know, like, what your artwork's going to look like and how many you're doing and what kind of garments, that sort of thing. We'll walk you through whatever. Just make sure you have enough details to know what the project's about, and we'll absolutely walk you through it. So because we talk about care instructions so much, I wanted to make sure that we actually talk about this in just a tiny bit more detail, because care instructions, even if we're not talking about shirt tags right now, care instructions are one of those things that people call us up and ask us about all the time anyway. On some level, we could almost do a separate webinar on this topic alone, I think. But so let's go over this real fast, just so everybody's on the same page, right? So laundry instructions for transfers, you're going to find that nothing here is really crazy. None of this is rocket science. Do not directly iron. Okay, that's number one, right? If you've heat pressed a transfer onto a garment, you can obviously deduce that directly ironing that transfer is going to ruin it in some capacity. So we want to make sure that your customers don't directly iron. Do not dry clean. The chemicals involved in dry cleaning are super intense, and those chemicals do have the ability to remove transfer, or if not remove the transfer, stain or bleach the transfer, depending on the chemicals and depending on the garment and which type of transfer and all that good stuff. So at the end of the day, you do not want to dry clean something with a transfer on it. It's not worth it. Number three, recommend avoiding hot water and high heat dry cycles. So again, it's the same concept. You used heat to apply that transfer to the shirt, whether it's a shirt tag or something else. You used heat to apply that transfer. If you apply more heat, whether it's hot water or a really hot dry cycle in the dryer, you don't want to do that because now you're running the risk of, I mean, obviously there's a good chance your transfer is not going to come off the shirt, but if your dryer gets super hot, we see this happen sometime with industrial dryers. If your dryer gets super, super hot, you can bring that transfer to a point where it starts to melt just a tiny little bit, enough to make a mess. And you don't want to do that. Obviously, this is sort of this is the point. Um, so the transfers that we produce here are independently tested through 50 wash dry cycles. So we can tell you that we've wash dried all of our products 50 times. We know that they last, and that 50 wash dry cycles is before they start to break down. So this is a question we get all the time. Wash inside out. So this is one of those things where it's not necessary. And here's the funny part. If I go ask my mother right now, should I wash my t-shirt inside out? My mother is going to tell me, yes, absolutely. You always wash your t-shirts inside out. So I know that's one of those mom things. At the end of the day, as far as transfers are concerned, it's not going to reduce abrasion in any capacity. It's not really necessarily in some scientific way going to help per se, but at the same time, it doesn't hurt anything. So if you want to wash your t-shirts inside out, then go for it. Not necessary, but doesn't hurt anything. Fabric softener. Fabric softener is one of those fun topics that people ask us periodically about. And I find this, maybe I'm too much of a science nerd. I find this really interesting. If you read up on how fabric softener actually functions and what fabric softener does, the whole function of it is to make your shirt feel softer, and the way it's doing that is actually by fraying and breaking down the ends of the fibers of your shirt, not on some massive level. It's obviously not a tank of acid that you're dissolving a shirt in, but the point is fabric softener is actually sort of fraying the edges of that fiber, and over time, using fabric softener on a constant basis, it can actually affect a shirt. Now, at the end of the day, are we talking something crazy like, oh my God, you use fabric softener, the transfer's coming right off? No, that's not how that works. Prolonged fabric softener over time will decrease the shelf life of how long that shirt's going to wear, or not shelf life, but the wear life of that shirt. So fabric softener is one of those tricky things where you don't want to tell people no, because using it once in a while isn't going to hurt anything. But using it over and over and over, like if you have your favorite t-shirt and you wear it twice a week, every week, and you're fabric softening it every time you wash it after every wear, then okay, yeah, that's going to break it down quicker. And it's the same thing with oxy products. You see a lot of those oxy products. It's sort of the same concept, actually, as the fabric softener. It's not a heck of a lot different. So it's the same deal where you can use the oxy product, sure. Using them once in a while, totally not going to hurt anything. But if you do it over and over and over and over, and gosh forbid if you do it with the fabric softener, at that point, you're asking for the transfer not to live as long, or actually not even just the transfer, but the whole shirt. Honestly, this is where you get seams that pop and collars that wrinkle and that kind of stuff. And then bleach, of course, bleach is one of those things where you don't want to bleach a transfer. don't bleach a shirt that's got screen printing on it. And again, here's the funny part. If you do it once, it's not necessarily going to hurt anything. Obviously, it's going to mess with the colors of the shirt, and it can mess with the colors of the screen printing. But the point is that bleaching a garment once is not going to cause the transfer to shrivel up and fall off or dissolve in the washing machine or anything like that. But again, prolonged exposure to bleach, and bleach is the more damaging of these three topics here at the end: the fabric softener, the oxy, and the bleach. The bleach is the most hefty, so that's the one you don't want to do unless you absolutely have to. So things to keep in mind here. Okay, so best colors for your shirt tag. This is one where we see people trap themselves in this. We've talked to people who get the wild idea in their head, like, okay, I want to have some of my tags raspberry pink, and then I want to have some of them Tennessee orange, and then I want some of them lime green. And you can do that. That's fine if that goes with your branding somehow or your company in some capacity. But remember, you're going to be stuck with pages of these shirt tags in that color. And if a particular shirt color doesn't work out for you and suddenly, well, gosh, now I don't know what I'm going to put these raspberry pink tags on. Well, that's not, now you've sort of shot yourself in the foot. So honestly, when you're doing your shirt tags, at least for the first time, when you're new to this and you're getting into it, keep it simple. Don't do anything crazy. Um, our suggestion is to stick with a neutral color. Okay. Do something, if at all possible, use a color that will go on everything. Okay. If that's possible. And this depends obviously on the shirts that you're applying on and the shirts that you're going to be stocking. Sometimes it's not doable to have one color that goes on everything. But at the very least, stick with something neutral like plain black and white. Remember that if you're doing a screen printed transfer, you can always do a color change. You could do several sheets of black and then color change it to several sheets of white. And it's just considered one order, one total quantity with the price break. So that's the beauty of a color change. And the only catch is there's a $15 color change fee. Still cheaper than doing separate orders though. At the end of the day though, the point is think and be cognizant about the colors that you choose. One of the things that we see people do that's super duper popular is the whole tone on tone thing. Has everybody seen this? Are we all familiar with what tone on tone means? And it's the last maybe 2 or 3 years that you see this a lot more. And I suspect that there's probably some celebrities to blame for this one. Um, but tone on tone is this concept that oh no, okay. Well, maybe we haven't seen this a lot then. Tone on tone is this concept where people like to put, if you've got like a really dark colored black shirt, then you put black ink on the black shirt, or white ink on a white shirt. Tone on tone. You're putting the same tone of the shirt. You're putting that same tone transfer on the shirt. So tone on tone is one of those things that happens too, and that can be fun for an overall look. Like if you're doing a black t-shirt and you do like a really dark, maybe like a charcoal color for the tag or black for the tag, that can be cool. Just be cognizant if you are going to do that, if that's the strategy you're going to employ, make sure that that's a color that you can use for other stuff too. Like if you're doing pink shirts and you're going to do tone on tone and you get some pink tags, then okay, make sure you use up all those tags, or make sure you got something else to do with those. Because you're going to find as we go through here, tags come in gang sheets with lots of tags on one sheet, and you have to order a certain number of sheets. So you don't want to be stuck with a whole bunch of sheets of pink tags. And Derek's right. It looks great on certain colors. It does. But these are the sort of things you want to make sure you think out before you actually do your order. Make sure you're planning not just for this one time, plan ahead. And Miguel's right, actually. The gloss of the tag stands out against the flat of the shirt. That's a very good point. When you do the whole tone on tone thing correctly, yeah. But point being here, plan ahead, think of the long term when you're picking out the color of your tags. Don't jump on something that sounds fun at the moment. Make sure you're planning it out correctly. And Cindy, that's actually perfect. Cindy's asking, tone on tone, if you want to make the transfer shiny, would you use a Teflon sheet when pressing? Absolutely, Cindy, you can do that. You would press your tag down first and peel it, and then stop, cover it back up with the Teflon sheet, and press it again for, just 2 or 3 seconds. It doesn't need to be, very long. And the Teflon sheet will actually cause the transfer to have a shiny effect. So that is a fun way to do that, yes. And again, super popular. But remember too, if you do take that tone on tone approach, remember that that's something that's going to attract a younger crowd. And it's going to be a little difficult to read. Sometimes the tone on tone stuff looks really cool and it's a neat idea. But if you've got a really busy tag and you're trying to put a lot of stuff on there, then definitely not the idea for you, because it's going to be hard to read as it is. Just a thought. So what transfer type is best for your shirt tag? This is one of those things where it's completely dependent upon what exactly you're trying to tag. And it depends on what kind of tag you're doing here too. So now, for the most part, I think that 99% of the shirt tags that we see at Transfer Express, they fall into the column on the left here: screen printed transfers, spot color. It's not very often that we even get multicolor tags. Remember, you might be coming up with your tag idea and you might go, oh, a multicolored tag. I'll do 2 colors with my logo. Remember that you're not making money on your tag necessarily, not directly. The tag is for marketing. At the end of the day, though, the amount that you're paying for that tag isn't something that's necessarily going to go into the cost of the garment unless you plan it that way. So most people will stick to one colors when they're doing their shirt tags, just because that's cheap, that's cost effective. You're not spending a ton of money on that tag. So for the most part, 99% of the shirt tags that we see fall into that first category, screen printed transfers, the one on the left there. If for some reason you are doing a full color tag where you're trying to, maybe it's part of your branding, maybe it's like a beach scene, a sunset, and a palm tree, whatever, and you're trying to do a full color, there's a full color thing you're doing with your tag, then that's where that right column comes into play. But then based on the apparel type, whether it's a t-shirt, 100% polyester, lycra spandex, or sublimation, there's a different type of transfer that goes on everything. And that's a great question, Kenrick. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a slide or two. So there's different things to do with these different transfer types, and it's all dependent upon what type of apparel you're doing, and it also depends on how exactly you're doing the pressing too. And as I just said to Kenrick there, we're going to talk about machines in just a slide or two here, and there's different ways to press these tag transfers. There are some ways that are very difficult and some ways that are much easier. So on sublimation, you won't see the tag through the back of the shirt. Won't you see the tag through the back of the shirt? Tammy's asking. You know what, Tammy? It depends on what you do exactly. Not necessarily. The funny thing about that, Tammy, is 10 years ago when sublimation was not such a big beast, that was sort of an easier question to answer. Today, you see sublimation where the inside of the garment is still white. Sometimes it's dyed to match the rest of the garment. So it kind of depends on the inside of your shirt there, Tammy, and it depends on which transfer you're using. But in theory, honestly, you should be able to tag a sublimated garment and not have to worry about it showing through the back. No, I mean, unless it's like a super duper fine polyester. But no, that shouldn't be an issue. Absolutely not. But anyway, so this graphic is just giving you some ideas here. So honestly, the most common type of shirt tag we see 9 times out of 10 is the goof-proof tag going on a plain t-shirt. It is getting increasingly more popular to see the ElastiPrint tags on 100% polyester as people are using more and more and more performance wear. That is definitely a thing. And then the sublimation. Sublimation is one of those things that comes up quite a bit also. So AquaTrue with blocker is the direction you want to go when you do that. So which transfer type is best for hoodies? Kevin is asking. So Kevin, you can treat hoodies pretty much like you treat t-shirts, honestly. Hoodies, you know, if a hoodie is 50-50 or cotton, then you want to go with the goof proof. If it's 100% polyester, like a performance wear hoodie, like you see from some of those companies, then you want to go with that 100% polyester option and do the ElastiPrints. Okay. So I saw somebody ask this earlier. When it comes to shirts, now obviously we haven't gone through everything. I'm not listing, you know, the best polyester shirts and the best sublimated shirts and the best lycra spandex and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not really going that detailed, but I'm sure some of you are sitting there asking, well, gosh, which shirts should I tag? And somebody did ask about tagless, blank shirts versus the tearaway tags. These are 3 shirts that we recommend based on our experience here at Transfer Express. Now, you can use just about any shirt where you can rip the tag off. That's not a problem. But if you're asking, if any of you are curious on what we suggest and where we would go if we needed a tagless shirt right now today, these are the 3 options that we keep in our back pockets here. So first is the Port & Company PC54. You'll find that PC54 is their core line. So they've got the PC54 is just a regular short sleeve t-shirt, but then the PC54 line goes further and has tank tops and V-necks and all that kind of stuff. They all have the tearaway tags. And Port & Company is personally my favorite. I like the Port & Company because it's very cost effective too. They tend to be very well made as well. So Port & Company is sort of that, for me personally, that good combination of good quality, good price, tearaway tags. Perfect. The Gildan, I've actually, you know what? I've got my model number wrong here. It says Gildan 500, but it's actually Gildan 5000. My apologies. So the Gildan 5000 is just an alternative if you're not a Port and Company person. The Gildan 5000 is also very nice. Gildan's a great brand. We all know that. They've been around for forever and a day, right? So Gildan 5000 is a great way to go too, with the nice tearaway tags. And then the Jerseys 29B is actually a youth garment. So if you're looking for youth tearaway shirts, that's a good option too. Now, at the end of the day, the point is, if you can get a tag off of a garment, you can press your tag onto the collar of that garment without a problem. So this is not by any means us saying you have to use these 3 models. This is just suggestions for the people who are sort of at the beginning here and doing research and trying to figure out where to start. And you'll find that if you explore any shirt warehouse's catalog, it's funny how far we've come in the last couple years. A few years ago, you would have had to find the specific section on tearaway tags. Today, half of that catalog is going to be tearaway tags, honestly. And like I said earlier, you can still find some that come with no tag at all. But those tend to be a little bit more expensive, and I think that's going away. I think the industry is veering more towards the tearaway tags because that's just super simple for the manufacturers to go that route. So, but either way, these are the suggestions. If you're looking for a good tearaway tag garment, these are the 3 that we suggest you go with. All right, so setting up your shirt tag with all sizes. So this is just some design pointers. We're going to talk about how to put your stuff together, some things you need to keep in mind. So number 1, create one label. You don't want to make things complicated. Come up with one label you're going to do on everything. This is another one of those things where you see people get into trouble, because remember that whatever you do here, whatever tag you make, you're going to have to keep these in stock for every time you do more shirts and you have to put your tag on more stuff. So if you create multiple designs for your tags, that's even more stuff you have to have stocked and set aside. So honestly, the smartest thing you could do, come up with one design, one tag sort of layout. For example, we have some customers that, okay, well, I need to tag some 100% cotton shirts, and then I need to tag some 50/50 shirts. Just do the same design for both. Don't do something crazy for the cotton ones and then something different for the 50/50s. Again, that's just more stuff you have to stock and makes your life unnecessarily difficult, I promise. So duplicate and position on a sheet. So this is one of those things where depending on the art program you're using, the picture that you see here is our art program, our Easy View online designer that we're going to talk about more in just a minute here, I think on the next slide or slide after that. But the point is, whichever art program you're using, whether it's our designer or it's Corel or it's Adobe, this is one of those things that people don't necessarily think of if you're not a graphic designer by trade. Don't remake the tag over and over again. Copy and paste, duplicate. Grab the tag and copy it and then duplicate it. Don't remake it over and over again. So copy paste is your friend. Change the shirt size if needed. So in the example you see on my screen here, all we've done is we made that small tag that's in the top left, and then we copied it once and put it underneath for that second small tag. Then we copied both of them, duplicated it, changed the smalls to M's, duplicated that, changed the M's to L's. So at the end of the day, you didn't have to remake every single one. You just keep duplicating it and then change the sizes. And then that's how you fill up the sheet. So obviously, I'm not showing you a picture of a whole sheet here. This is one of those where a sheet would be much larger. And to that effect, I've got our sheet sizes listed here. But the point is, from here, once I had my rows the way I wanted them, I would just copy one of those rows and duplicate that row over and over again. And then order how many of that sheet as you need. Okay, so this is where you need, and I know the math can get a little bit funky here, but you need to figure out, if I get 6 smalls, 6 mediums, 6 larges, 6 XL, 6 2X, and 6 3X, if I get 6 of each of those on one sheet, how many sheets do I need? So now in my example, if my garment line, if I am, maybe my line is going to be geared towards kids, I probably don't need a lot of 3XLs, right? Like I probably want a couple 3XLs just in case, but maybe I don't want to put 6 of those 3Xs on a sheet. So maybe I'm only going to do 3 of those 3Xs on a sheet, and those extra 3 spaces, I'll make those smalls maybe. The point is that you mix and match and figure out how many you need of each size and plan your sheet based on that. Okay. And then each sheet size is based on the transfer type. If you're doing a screen printed transfer, the sheets are 11.25 by 14. If you're doing Ultra Color Soft, one of our digital products, it's 11.5 by 18. And then if you're doing our water-based AquaTrue, it's 12 by 19. Okay. So if you're going to do tags, you set your page size to whichever one of those that you're going with, and you have from edge to edge to work with. Lay it out however you want. Just remember that at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to cut these apart. So if you're filling up that sheet with all the tags in the world, that's great. Utilize your space, maximize the amount of money that you're going to get out of that sheet. But remember that you have to be able to cut it. So you've got to make sure that you're not messing with yourself there. And there are minimums. Yes, that is a very good question, Cindy. Thank you. So there are minimums for the different products. It depends on which product. So for the screen printed transfers and the ultra color transfers, the minimum is only 5 sheets. So in my example here, if I was going to do the rows that you see here, if I was going to do 6 up of each of those, so 6 small, 6 medium, 6 larges, if I was going to do that in a screen print or ultra color, my minimum would be 5 sheets. If I'm doing water-based, our water-based AquaTrue transfers, the minimum is 50 sheets, 50. So if you're going to do the water-based tags, then you have to have a whole lot of garments at that point, right? That's big time. Okay, let's continue on here. So setting up your sheet with all the sizes. So this is the full picture from the last slide that we were just looking at. This is the whole picture here. So you can't see it really super well, but on their screen there, this is our EasyView Online Designer. You'll see there's a dotted line that goes around the outside of all of my tags there. That dotted line is actually the size of the paper that we have to work with. Since this is a screen printed transfer in this example, this is an 11.25 by 14 piece of paper, and that's what the dotted line is designating. So you'll see that I've gone right up into the edge. We've done 6 small, 6 medium, 6 larges, so on and so forth. So now if I was to print 10 sheets, that would give me 60 of each of these images, right? 60 of each of them for 360 total labels. Now, it's important to note that when you order tags like this, all of the sheets have to be exactly the same. So I could not say, okay, well, I want 9 of my sheets to look this way, and I want the 10th sheet to be all smalls. And it doesn't work that way. All 10 sheets have to be exactly the same. Okay. So when you put your tags together, make sure you're doing your math and make sure you're figuring out exactly what you need and setting your sheet up appropriately. And this is one of those things we can help you with too, to some degree. But remember, at the end of the day, we need you to tell us how many you need of each one. We can't tell you exactly, but we can help you put the gang sheet together. Certainly, that part's not a problem. Okay, so in order to try and make your life a little bit easier, we know that there's some of you guys out there who are going, okay, well, I want to do shirt tags to advertise my company, but I don't really have like a tag design to go with. So what we've done here is in our EasyView Online Designer, we've created these 4 basic tag templates. Okay, so these tag templates are made for you. Obviously, you're not the Compton company or Compton Apparel. The idea is that these are templates that you can start with and you can change and adjust and edit them down to what you want them to be. And the point of this is that we've made these 4 tags with our minimums in mind. Earlier, at the very beginning, I was telling you guys what our minimums are for our printing. The minimum for a line is 0.012, and the minimum for show through is 0.04 inches thick. So the point is, these 4 designs have been made with tags in mind so that the symbols and the text on these layouts is adjusted so that it's going to have the better chance of being successful. Okay, so if nothing else, what I hope everybody listening is absorbing from this is looking at what these designs look like and taking in how little amount of text is actually here and how little is actually present on these tags. And I say this because we see this too often where we get somebody who says, hey, I designed my own tag. And what we get is 7 lines of text with all sorts of information and a really detailed company logo at the top. And at the end of the day, we're going to call you back and we're going to tell you, gosh, your tag is cool looking, but we can't do that. It's not going to turn out the way you think it is. So what I want everyone to absorb is you don't have a ton of space. You're not writing a novel. Make sure your tags are simple. And Kevin, no, these aren't available for download. These are actually templates that are in our designer. So to use these, you would need to log on to our EasyView online designer. But anyway, so the point is these are all customizable, and you see that some are obviously a little bit more simple than others. We made one that's a little bit more wordy at the top corner there, the QTG-6, but the other one's still a tiny bit on the simple side, keeping it a little bit more, a little bit less wordy, a little bit more plain. Avani is asking a good question here. Can we upload our own text? So that's actually the point of these templates, Avani. You can customize them, sure. Keep in mind that if you upload your own custom text or your own custom designs to them, then they do get a little bit more expensive because at that point it's a custom transfer. If you stick just to the text, the fonts, and the stuff that's in our catalog, and we have a heck of a lot in our catalog, then it is a little bit cheaper. And the other thing to keep in mind too, Ivania, is that remember that the stuff that we provide for you is already sort of tested and meant to be cooperative when it gets down to these small sizes. A lot of the times when people send us custom text, custom stuff for tags, we end up having to do a lot of measuring and figuring out what's going to work and what doesn't work, what's too small, what's not optimal. So yes, you can go either route. Just be prepared to talk it out. If you're going to do custom stuff, be prepared to talk out what does work and what needs to be adjusted. And we'll tell you all that. All right, or the other option here, if you don't want to use our EasyView Online Designer, maybe you already have your tags made up. Maybe you're sitting there going, Andy, I've already designed my tags. Stop talking about the Online Designer. What do I do? If you've already made your tags, you can upload them directly to us at Transfer Express. If you go to our main page, transferexpress.com, at the top middle of the page, you will find a button for Upload Artwork, and that will take you right to this page that you see here on my slide. Our upload page, you will simply attach your file to this page, tell us what type of transfer you're looking for, and then we'll actually contact you after we've received your artwork. So now, in this process of uploading the file, it is going to ask you to pick a transfer type. At the end of the day, it's okay if you don't know what your transfer type is. The page does want you to select one, though. So even if you do say, well, gosh, I don't know, am I supposed to use ElastiPrint or GoofProof? Choose one of the two, and then at the bottom of the upload page is actually a little note section, and you can actually tell us, I'm not sure which transfer type to use. Here's the type of garment that I'm using. And what will happen is when we do reach out to connect with you, we'll have an answer for you already. Jeffrey's actually got a really good point here, and I would take a guess here, Jeffrey, that this is another topic we could talk about for half an hour, probably alone. But Jeffrey's asking, with shirts that are already tagged, would it be beneficial to put a brand tag on the outside, like on the sleeve or the bottom hem? This is a fantastic question, Jeffrey. Is there anybody out there that already does this? Is there anybody out there in listening land who's already doing this? And this is something that it's one of those topics that some of the t-shirt not manufacturers, I'm sorry, some decorators love this strategy, Jeffrey. Some don't. There are plenty of people who do have, and when you do that, when you have something that you put on hems or sleeves, you want to make sure it's something simple. You don't want to do something crazy. Usually it's a really identifiable logo. Oh, there we go. We got somebody who gave us a yes. You want to make sure it's some kind of simple little logo. And that's totally acceptable. You see that happening a lot. There you go. Perfect. Exactly. Badger, Champion do that. make sure it's somewhere inobtrusive, out of the way. You don't want it to be someplace where it's going to be front and center necessarily, unless you've developed a brand in which you can be front and center like that. I'll see a lot of people do this. That's great to hear. Oh, heat transfer vinyl on the back. Okay, that works too, Cheryl. Yep. I tag the lower sleeve. Yep, that works too, Jonas. So there's plenty of people who do use this strategy. Just remember, you're adding a step to your process. If you're going to opt not to do a shirt tag and you're going to do your own little logo on a sleeve or a hem, remember you're adding a step for yourself. And that's not a big deal, but it's just something to think about. And the most common place, I would think, if we polled everybody, I would think the most common place has got to be the sleeve, because that's where you tend to see that kind of stuff, I think. Or the back of the neck too is actually a real slick area as well. So definitely very valid idea and fantastic question, Jeffrey. I appreciate that. Okay, so I mentioned we were going to talk about this. Let's discuss applying your shirt tag. So again, there's a million ways to do this, but I at least want to give you guys a couple little tidbits of things not to do, things to look out for, and what you should be thinking about. So number one, the thing that I want everyone to understand, if you have not listened to anything else I've said, if you have not absorbed anything else I've said so far, this is the one thing I want you to get. Are you ready? Take notes here. Do not use an iron. Don't do it. Don't use an iron. Are we all clear? So when you do your shirt tags, you do need to use a heat press. Irons are deceptive because you'll try to iron it and it'll stick and you'll peel it and go, well, Andy was full of it. It worked just fine until it comes off in the wash. And that's assuming it even peels at all, because generally they won't. The problem with an iron is most irons don't get hot enough. So then you say, Andy, I have a really nice iron. It does get hot enough. Okay, fine. So your iron does get hot enough. Remember, a heat press also applies pressure, and that pressure is what's necessary to make a transfer want to stick into a shirt long term. The heat will activate the adhesive and it'll make it come off the paper, sure, but that iron isn't making it want to stay in the shirt. You could press your iron down really, really hard, and you could do that. Ooh, Natalie, not okay. You don't want to do that. And it's the same reason, Natalie. It's the same thing. The easy press is basically a really big iron. And the same problem happens where you could take your easy press and you'd have to push really hard down for that transfer to want to stay in there. At the end of the day, we don't recommend doing that. At the end of the day, you want the pressure that a traditional heat press will generate, because that pressure is what will make the tag or any transfer stick into the shirt permanently. So at the end of the day, you do want an actual heat press. So now, somebody else, not a problem, Natalie, somebody else earlier asked, is there a heat press or is there a shirt tag machine? There is no certain heat press made for a shirt tag, no. But what you will discover, has anybody ever used a hat press to do tags? Anybody out there? If you have ever used a hat press to do tags, you discover that that hat press, suddenly, I don't even want to do hats on it. I want to do tags. That made it so easy. The hat press definitely is much, oh, see, lots of yeses. Okay, good. I'm not crazy then. That's a good thing. You definitely, a hat press makes it so much simpler. You can use a flat press, a plain shirt press. You can totally do that. And there's nothing wrong with it. But the point is that a hat press makes it so easy just to have the back inside of that collar on that press without anything else in the way. So Stuart's asking, so what's the difference? The problem, Stuart, if you're going to use a flat, plain, like a normal shirt press, the problem you've got is when you lay that shirt down on there, you've got all those seams in the way. You've got the seam for the collars. You've got any other kind of seams happening in that shoulder area. You've got all of that sitting on the press. And when the press closes, it's going to hit all those seams. That's the problem. So what you end up having to do, as I've got on the slide here, you end up having to use a print perfect pad or a mouse pad to put underneath the shirt to raise the surface area above all those seams. And that's totally a valid strategy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's an extra step, and it can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, right? So at the end of the day, you definitely don't want to have to go through that. So my suggestion is, if you're going to go and do a ton of shirt tags, if this is going to be a thing that you're going to do on a regular basis, I would invest in a hat press. And at the end of the day, there's the only hat press that, well, we have two hat presses. There's the new hat press that's out through Hotronics, and then of course there's the Max hat press as well. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter which one you use. It's sort of just about, it's about having the shape per se. At the end of the day, the hat press for the Hotronics Max is a little bit more cost effective. But the new hat press has a lot of fun bells and whistles and gives you the access to actually doing hats, right? So at the end of the day, it's up to you. Hotronics IQ hat press, Max hat press, your call. But the point is, it's the shape that we're looking for, and both of those presses have that shape where you can have the back of the neck on the platen with everything else hanging off. So that's what we're looking for here. Okay, all right. So if you need any more help, if you want to do some more reading, our marketing department at Transfer Express is phenomenal. They have put together a really great ebook on the shirt tag label guide that goes over a lot of the information that we've talked about here, plus a bunch more pictures and some nice visuals. If you're a visual person, it's a good thing. I don't suppose my helper behind the scenes here can pop that link into the chat for everybody. That would be fantastic. So you can go to the link that I'm displaying on the slide here, and you can download this ebook totally for free. There is no cost to it. It is there for you. We make these things for you guys. So definitely something to take away from this. I'll give everybody just a hot second here to write down this link or to pop it into your browser. Okay. All right, everybody. That is shirt tags, and we've clocked in at just under an hour. So how do you like that? Thank you, everybody, for coming today. I hope that you got something useful out of this. I know that for those of you who have been doing this for a long time, this probably wasn't rocket science and not really anything too new. If you're new to this, hopefully that you got some good information. And I know it can be very overwhelming. There can be a lot to learn and a lot to figure out. If you ever need help with any of the stuff that we've talked about today, call us, 1-800-622-2280. Our customer service reps would be thrilled to talk you through these things, answer any of your questions, help you figure out what you need. Also, please do not hesitate to email us, info@transferexpress.com. We love hearing your questions and your suggestions. In addition to that, we've got our blog at blog.transferexpress.com. Our marketing department puts out several blogs a week. Our blog has won awards in our industry, so I really encourage you to go read the blog, check it out. I see your question there, Ian, and it's a great question to throw in here right at the very end. What is the best way to bag shirts? At the end of the day, Ian, the way to bag a shirt is to make sure that you're advertising your company somehow. If you're going to bag your shirts individually, get stickers made with your company name and bag those suckers like that. It's up to you, though. If you're delivering all those shirts to one customer, if you're making shirts for one customer, you bag them together, you box them together. You don't really need to do anything crazy. But if you're doing individual stuff, you're delivering to people individually, make sure, however you do it, make sure you do it in such a fashion that you're advertising yourself. All right. So that's what I got, folks. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here, and we'll see you again next month for our next webinar. Have a great rest of your day.